Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins, and today I'm talking to author Barbara James about her new book, Going Home, Roger. This is the second book in her sweet and sensuous romance series. Roger M. Young turned his back on his conservative upbringing when he left home at 18 and joined the Coast Guard. He was quite happy with his life. When he served as a groomsman at his best friend Rick Santelli's wedding, dating Denise Perigault, Rick's teenaged sister-in-law, was the last thing on his mind, and she felt the same way too. Having recently finished her junior year in high school, she was just too young. But once she starts college in the same town where he is stationed, they might change their minds. If Roger wants to date a younger and more traditional woman, he has to figure out whether he's up to the challenge. Can he recall the lessons he learned before he left home? This is a sweet romance with strong elements of sensuality in a closed-door setting. Hi, Barbara. First of all, welcome, and thank you for coming on Book Talk Radio Club.
Thanks so much for having me.
Sure. Firstly, I have to ask, what is a closed-door romance?
In closed-door romances, we see the build-up to the couple's sexual expression, the sensuality of it, but the couple's sexual activity takes place behind closed doors. It's solely a matter of my personal writing preference, where the emotional intimacy matters a lot more, and so I work on building up those aspects of the couple's relationship.
Well, you know what? I have to agree with you, actually. I prefer it closed door. I don't really want to know what's going on. I like why they're going to get there, but not what they're doing when they're in there.
And that's the purpose. I look at it this way. I sort of protect my character's privacy.
Absolutely. So, Barbara, what was the inspiration for writing sweet and sensuous romances?
I just love the emphasis on romance and courtship, the emotional intimacy of couples who take the time to develop their relationship on all these different levels, from early acquaintances who recognize their attraction, who take things slowly as they explore and get to know one another, the warmth of their emotional connection until sexual intimacy feels right to them. It's about following the couples on their journey as they work towards building something long-term.
That's great. The byline of Going Home reads, "What if the life you have created no longer matches who you really are?" Tell me more about this.
So I think Roger's pretty interesting. When we first meet him, he was a young man in his late 20s, quite happy with his life, single man pursuing primarily casual relationships. He rarely had girlfriends, but being a groomsman at his friend Rick's wedding becomes a catalyst for him to wonder whether he might want something different, to actually start dating towards having a serious girlfriend and a long-term relationship. And so the book is about his evolution, how he grows over time through his relationship with Denise, Rick's young sister-in-law. She was one of the bridesmaids.
Interesting. It's an interesting way of looking at it. I like that. So if Roger wants to date a younger, more traditional woman, he has to figure out whether he's up to the challenge. What, in your view, Barbara, constitutes a more traditional woman, and why would it be a challenge to date one?
Well, look at it this way. I mean, in a world of modern dating that celebrates the casual hookup, having sex first, see where it goes, maybe date, maybe not, traditional women aren't going to want that because they come from a more conservative subculture. And so that's what Roger was faced with from the first beginning in getting acquainted with Denise, is being interested in her, getting to know her, but realizing that it would take time for them to develop emotional intimacy on different levels. And that is a foundation for their physical intimacy. It was what she needed because she came from a more conservative background, was living in a different city, and at the time they first met, she wasn't even of college age yet. So some of that connecting took place long distance at first, but once she moved nearby and began matriculating at her college, that became the game changer for them. But what I think makes Roger even more interesting is that he once came from that same conservative subculture, but he turned his back on it. He left home, and now he's going back to it and becoming the man he could have been, but with greater experience, wisdom, as well as maturity.
Right, okay. So you're an avid romance reader. Are there any particular authors that have inspired you to write in the romance genre?
I can think of several, Lisa Claypaugh, Grace Burrows, Amber Beldine. Grace Burrows in particular, she does a great job in developing characters who grow over time through their relationships. They mature and grow as people, and in their relationships as they work towards their happily ever after. I love how Grace Burrows does books in series.
Right. Right. Look, I've interviewed many authors of all genres of fiction, and they say they have found that the characters of their books become very real to them and almost start telling the author their stories. Does this happen to you too?
Absolutely. I find that I might be going about my day when a character comes to mind. I can almost see the character's interactions, or I might have an idea about how a scene might work or how I might develop a book.
Mm.
The characters just seem to tell me what will work or what won't work. And it's just their story, it seems to me, and I just happen to write it. The disconcerting thing, though, is that when I'm focused on a more advanced project, these secondary characters almost seem pretty persistent. They just talk, and I just take notes.
You got this talking in your head the whole time.
Yeah, they're talking in my head. I'm just typing notes, whatever's going on.
Your first book in this series is called Starting Over. Would you like to tell Book Talk Radio Club's listeners about this book?
Yeah, so the series began with Rick. He was consciously going about making changes in his life to start over. He didn't go to college upon graduating high school, but went straight to the Coast Guard, like Roger did. 10 years later, he's older, going into the reserves, starting a new career track, and part of that means thinking about his future, the type of relationship he wanted in going forward. Annalise, his partner, was younger but mature and more marriage-minded than her peers. It was a fun book to write and to introduce all the secondary characters, Rogers and Denise included.
Right. Oh. So and I see that Rick Santelli makes an appearance from your first book, Starting Over. Is it your intention to bring characters from previous books into new books to strengthen the reader's relationship with them?
Now, I'm glad when readers feel connected to the characters over time. The value in connected books, I think, with these connected characters works is to stress the characters' growth and development within their communities of friends and relatives. So we learn more about Rick and his friendship with Roger in Going Home, the ways in which Rick was a mentor and continues to be as Roger begins his relationship with Denise.
Right. And so how many books do you see yourself writing in the Sweet and Sensuous series?
At least 4, possibly 6. I mean, the third one right now is Lauren's story. She's one of the bridesmaids in Annalise's book.
Right.
As I said, the secondary characters are really clamoring. So Lauren's book, Kim, the other bridesmaid, and then Ellen, one of Annalise's friends from college, sounds like a possibility. And perhaps even Lily, Roger's younger sister, where we see in Roger's book she's grappling with certain issues and concerns. So I'm saying at least 4, possibly 6.
It must get very crowded in your head.
It can, where it suddenly comes up, oh, Lily's thinking about this, or Lauren's thinking about this, or Kim's thinking about this. So it can be for even the male characters come up too.
Right.
Possible male characters or real male characters.
When you're walking along the street, do you look at someone and you think, oh, that could be how one of my characters behaves? Is that something you see?
Absolutely. I mean, the images that I had in mind for Roger and Denise, I happened to be at a library one day. I was looking at some magazine and I saw a story about a celebrity wedding and I said to myself, that's it. That's Roger, that's Denise. And so working with my Pinterest board, I'm not sure if you ever use Pinterest, but it's fantastic.
I love
finding
Pinterest.
Images.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it was wonderful. All these great images.
So where can Book Talk Radio Club listeners purchase Going Home and Starting Over?
Well, on Amazon, Kobo, and Drafted Digital for Starting Over, Rick. And for now on Amazon for Going Home, Roger. And I plan to make Roger's book available through those outlets as well, Kobo, Drafted Digital. Right. But it's also available right now, as I mentioned, Amazon, but as part of a pre-order special for those who might be interested.
Wonderful.
So Roger's book, pre-order special.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you, Barbara. That was so interesting. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club when you've published your next book, and I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you as well. I appreciate it.
Okay, there you go. Have a